there, lovely people. Welcome back to another Story Study Saturday. I'm Sammy, and I'm a writer who likes to learn about writing through reading and share what I learn with you. This week, I am unfortunately not talking about a Christmas book. I was not really in the mood for holiday reading this year, and I'm sorry. I really wish I was, because it probably would have been a better experience than the book that we are talking about today, which is Lying to Children. I won this in a Goodreads giveaway, and I felt obligated to read and review this book because I entered the giveaway so many times. I really was dedicated to winning this book, and it was a Kindle giveaway, and Kindle giveaways are usually really easy to win. I've won many a Kindle giveaway because everybody wants the physical books, which I get, I understand. I just don't have very much bookshelf space, so Kindle books are good for me. And I read the summary, I was like, yeah, I would like this. And I read the summary. Multiple times I read the summary, and I was like, yeah, I think I would like this book, because I don't read summaries. That's kind of my whole thing, is that I don't read summaries. And I genuinely thought I would like this book based on the summary, and that's where a lot of my problems come from it. I will say right off the bat that I am going to try and be as genuine to this book as I can be, while also being nice, because I gave this book 1 star. Put that out in the basis of the world. I'm still gonna do my normal structure where I talk about the good things that the book did, the things the book did well, and then I'm gonna go into the things that I think could be improved, and of course what writers can learn from it. But I will say, I'm not gonna give a summary on this book, because my summary would be so drastically different from the actual summary that is on Goodreads. So I'm gonna pull it up on Goodreads and read that one to you. And then we'll get into why I wouldn't summarize the story that way in the improvement section. So here is Goodreads summary on this book. A fictional father writes letters to his college-age daughter and son, remembering events, large and small, from their family's past, in the poignant and hilarious Lying to Children. In this collection of sometimes outrageous, sometimes sad, often heartwarming, interconnected vignettes, author Alex Shahla enters the fray with a delightful confessional celebration of family life told in stories from a dad's unique perspective, centered around the untruths parents regularly tell their kids in an effort to protect or silence them, from daddy loves his job to there's a jolly fat man who brings you presents, assembly required. Lying to Children is an unforgettable familial history filled with laughter, tears, and life lessons, and brimming over with a somewhat less than perfect suburban dad's unwavering love. Okay, we are gonna go into my thoughts, which are generally the good things that the book did. These are not all of my thoughts. Most of my thoughts are in the improvement section. So these are the positive things that happen, the things that this book does well. The author takes several parenting cliches and turns them into anecdotes from the narrator's perspective. And those anecdotes aren't always as closely connected as you would think they should be from the generalized parental advice type of things, or like the lies that are told to children. It doesn't necessarily always connect in a way that makes complete sense. And it's very loosely connected in a way that loops around and has you thinking, what does this have to do with that information, until you get to the end of that chapter. We do see some growth that the character goes through, some very, very slight growth. We do see some as his children get older, especially his daughter, who I believe the letters are mostly addressed to. They are mostly written to her. You see how he develops from the beginning to the end in relation to how he interacts with her as she develops as a person, how he changes his behaviors to react to those certain situations. The character is very well established in who he is. There's this distance that he has from his emotions and a sarcastic air around everything that he says while narrating and in the dialogue of the scenes that come up. So you know who he is no matter what's going on. He's always the same person. So let's get into what I think could be improved. For one, this book was not at all anything that I expected based on this summary. Not what I thought it would be. And I think that comes in part from me not knowing that it was a male author. I think I could have probably picked up on that, but because I generally am drawn to more books written by women than I am to books written by men, I just assumed, because I was drawn to it, I thought Alex was a girl, because it is a gender neutral name, and that's on me, because I made that jump. The main problem that I have with it is that the summary does no justice to what the actual story is. And I did go through some other lower 1-2 star reviews on Goodreads, and a lot of the people who won it through a giveaway were bothered by the fact that it's so different from what the actual story is to the summary. The narrator is absolutely not at all likable. He's incredibly unlikable in a way that doesn't come with reason. It seems like it's a personality that the author thinks is a reasonable personality. Maybe it's self-indulgence, who's to say? But it's not somebody that I would ever connect to unwavering love. There is quite literally one single event that I'm like, oh, okay, so there is love there. It's not even that I'm like, wow, you love so much. There's so much unwavering love there. It's like, I'm proud of you for making the choice to do the thing that I would expect you to do as a father. In the first chapter, Daddy Loves His Job, he literally discusses how meeting his wife and having his children ruined his life, which doesn't say to me unwavering love at all. It doesn't say that to me even in the slightest little bit. Truly just read as joking resentment. That's really just the joke is there to hide the underlying resentment. He is constantly, throughout a majority of the vignettes, pushing off parenting as a responsibility onto his wife and putting her into a position where she has to do everything. I'm sure that's not what the whole life would look like, but in having the stories that he's choosing to tell his children in these lying to children anecdotes, these letters to his kids, are the ones that he's saying, I didn't want to be your dad. I didn't want to do the things that were required of me to be your dad. Being your dad was exhausting. I don't know. Does that say unwavering love to you? I mean, I know it says he's not so perfect, but it's not anywhere near perfect, actually. It's not even close to good when it comes to just the bare minimum of being a dad. You know who's a less than perfect suburban dad? The dad from Full House. He's a less than perfect suburban dad. Not this narrator. Woof. My heart was never warmed. What I assumed to be the heartwarming moments were just, wow, you are a person. Cool. Good for you. And they were very much so written in a way that was pushing for a heartwarming and not necessarily coming from a natural place of like, this is just a really sweet moment that's filled with love and warmth. And my heart is warmed from that. It was like, this is going to warm your heart. That's how it was written. Like, I'm putting this in here so that you feel heartwarmed. Do you feel heartwarmed? Come on, you feel heartwarmed. That vibe is just going to make me angry. Not a heartwarming story from my experience whatsoever. And I'm sure that there are people that this is a heartwarming story for, but I don't look at relationships that come from this perspective of, I don't want to be doing this, but I'm here because I love you. That's never gonna heartwarm me. If you just do what somebody who loves someone does, that's never gonna be heartwarming to me. What's heartwarming is going above and beyond. But there are some people who did really enjoy this book, and I feel bad for them. There is room to say, maybe I just don't like the character. I don't like the character. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe I just don't like the guy and I wouldn't interact with the guy in real life. So when he is in these emotional situations, I don't have the empathy for him because I don't like him. There is room for that. There's absolutely room for that. I feel like if you gave this book to a relationship therapist, somebody who specializes in relationships and like identifying problems and helping people work through relationship issues, I feel like they would think he was the problem. I feel like he has something that leans towards a narcissistic perspective. There was one line he said, oh, I highlighted it for this exact reason because I was like, I hate that so much. I need to make sure that this is highlighted. There's a couple of quotes. Actually, I highlighted two that I was like, wow, I really do not like him. The one that I was thinking of was he's talking to a service person who works in like customer service type of stuff. And they make a joke. And he's like, I hate it when people in customer service positions make jokes. You're supposed to laugh at my jokes, not the other way around. Okay, sure. And another one that happened earlier in the book that was my first prompting to be like, wow, I do not like this man, was his wife is asking him to do something and he really doesn't want to do it. So he's trying to make up an excuse to get out of parenting. And in doing so, she's like, it's like you don't even love your children. He comes up with this long excuse. And the end of it, he says, and yes, of course I love the children. And she replies, it troubles me a little bit when you say that. It sounds like you're trying to convince yourself. Unwavering love? It definitely feels like he is the problem. In all of these situations, he's like, oh, you kids are so difficult. He's just not a likable man. There is one reviewer whose name was Kathy, and I feel like Kathy is just like a middle-aged name. I feel like Kathy saw her husband in this book, and Kathy was heartwarmed. I don't know anything about Kathy, but I do know that I didn't like it, and Kathy loved it. So there are absolutely people who really enjoyed this book, who really thought that it was good, and I am absolutely just not one of them. And that is life. Sometimes there are books that other people like and you don't. I really did not like this one. I forced myself through it because I entered the giveaway so many times, convinced that I would like it. And no, I do not. There is a big part of me that feels like this is reading a self-indulging type of story by the author. And I have encountered these a couple of times back in my Fiverr days when I was helping other people do stuff with their stories, that sometimes you just write stuff and it's for you to feel better about who you are. I don't know Alex Shahla. I don't know anything about him. I did not read his bio. I just saw his face pop up and I was like, oh, this was written by a man. Cool. I don't know if this is a self-indulgent story for him, but I do know that it could have been told better. For my experience of it, it could have been done better. That's, I guess, where I'll leave it. As for things that writers can learn from this story, I think this is a really interesting story platform where you have like a quote and then you tie in a story to that quote. And they're not necessarily all the same continuous story, but they're all connected by some thread. In this case, it is the children's lives growing up. I think that this is a really interesting format that I don't personally see played with a lot. And I think that that's really interesting to read and possibly take on. It's sort of like a collection of short stories at a certain point that becomes a novel because they are connected. And I think that that feels a little bit less intimidating than writing a whole, every scene is acknowledged, everything that happens is taken on kind of book. And I think that that's something we can take away from the story. Something else that I think is a really important takeaway from the story is that character development is really important, especially when your characters that need the development are extremely unlikable at the beginning. If your character is not likable at the start and they remain unlikable throughout the whole book, that's really tiring for your readers who don't like it. Specifically. And in general, the character growth that we get from the narrator is so minimal that it doesn't even count. It's basically the kind of growth that you get if you do everything the exact same that you wanted to, but as technology advances, you get a new phone. You get a new computer. It seems like all of his development comes from just talking to his children at the age that they're at, rather than as if they're still the age that they were at the beginning. He's still the same. Character development is super important. But that is all that I've got for you today. I'm sorry I didn't have anything exciting or like happy or Christmassy. I didn't really think about it when I was choosing books, but like I just wasn't super into any Christmas stories right now. And that's on me, I guess. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. I would really appreciate it. If you've read Lying to Children, or entered the giveaway on Goodreads, because there's been like 13 that I've entered until I won one. And then still, they're still going on. It's like I can't get people to read this book without putting it in front of them for free. But let me know if you've heard of this book, if you've entered a giveaway, if you've read it, what were your thoughts? Have I changed your thoughts at all? I don't think that my opinion should alter anyone's perspective on art, media, entertainment, but I'm just curious at this point. If you celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas. I will see you guys on Tuesday for my last Writing Tip Tuesday of the year. That's going to be discussing my goal setting strategy for next year. And then on next Saturday, I'm not doing another story study, but I will be going through all of the books that I've read, talking about what reading was like for me this year and what my new strategy is for reading more books next year and how that's going to work out. And if you would like to take it, you can also take that strategy. So I will see you guys next week. Vignette. Oops, vignette, not a beignet. Beignet is a pastry.